Welcome to Taiwan Report News Brief, news and analysis from Taiwan. All right, today up on the show, temples and corruption. Ex-legislative aides arrested for spying for China. Chinese sand thieves have been detained. Plan to allow recall campaigns to raise more money moves forward. Uncontroversial appointment to Washington, D.C. Justin Huang withdraws from Control Yuan consideration. Taiwan People's Party to have a big do. And finally, KMT Reform. The backlash begins. Up first, a criminal group that allegedly collaborated with Chinese snakeheads or human smugglers has been busted, according to the National Immigration Agency's Border Affairs Corps. They sold ROC passports to human traffickers in China, making a profit of about 20 million NT over the past 12 months, officials said. The two leaders who were arrested, along with 4 other people, most of whom are officials at temples in southern and central Taiwan. International cooperation was key to cracking the case, agency officials said. Canadian authorities found Chinese nationals attempting to enter their borders using altered ROC passports as part of a global human trafficking operation run by major Chinese smuggling gangs and passed along that intelligence to their counterparts in Taiwan. Now, that temple officials were involved is not actually that surprising. There has long been connections between local temples, gangs, and local patronage faction politicians. They are excellent for laundering money, and in recent years, some have built up connections in China. The famous Dajia Zhenlan Matsu Temple, which is the source of the famous Dajia Matsu pilgrimage, is headed by Yan Qingbiao, who was a Taichung black faction politician and has been imprisoned multiple times for corruption and gun charges, among other things. In similar news, 2 former legislative assistants were detained after being questioned by Taipei prosecutors about their alleged involvement collecting classified materials and meeting minutes from the Legislative Yuan, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Mainland Affairs Council, and passing on lists of government personnel and reporters to Chinese intelligence officials. The trio allegedly passed material to Chinese Ministry of State Security officials while working as aides to KMT lawmakers between 2014 and 2018. Kaohsiung prosecutors indicted and detained 10 crew members of a Chinese ship allegedly caught dredging sand in Taiwan's territorial waters earlier this month. Prosecutors said a bail court judge approved detaining the crew on a charge of breaching the act on the exclusive economic zone and the continental shelf of the Republic of China. Under Article 18 of the Act, they face up to 5 years in prison and up to 50 million NT in fines if found guilty. Coast Guard administration vessels on June 3rd boarded the 7,539 tons Chinese sand dredger ship. CGA patrols reported that there were more than 20 Chinese dredging vessels in the area, known as Taiwan Banks. It's near Penghu. The 2 CGA armed vessels and 2 naval frigates deployed water cannons and cornered a vessel with the designation number 5679. 17 Coast Guard personnel boarded the ship to detain and escort its crew to Kaohsiung. The CGA estimated that the ship might have mined more than 500 tons of sea sand. This is a big problem as the ecological damage is big. China's construction industry has a voracious need for sand. A proposal to allow both sides in recall campaigns to accept political donations has moved one step forward as the Interior Ministry approved a proposed amendment to the Political Donations Act on Thursday. Donations can only start after a recall campaign has entered its second stage with enough signatures in support collected. The Interior Ministry now plans to send the proposed amendment to the legislature for review. Now, this is probably a bad plan. Already following the successful recall of Kaohsiung Mayor Han Kuo-yu, there are several revenge recalls being launched by his supporters against people at the other end of the political spectrum. In short, recall votes are being weaponized. The threshold to pass at the end of the day is 25% of the electorate voting yes. That's not a terribly high threshold, especially in a highly partisan environment. The biggest obstacle in the current system is the hassle and expense. Allowing them to raise money makes it much easier to pay volunteers and professional operators, presumably. Some may even go so far as to use it to hire politically friendly companies in the form of patronage. For more on this issue, check out Nathan Battow's excellent comments in his piece on the hand recall on his Frozen Garlic blog. Xiaobi Kim, a former Democratic Progressive Party legislator and National Security Council advisor, has been appointed Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the United States. Born in 1971 in Kobe, Japan, to a Taiwanese father and American mother, Xiao grew up in the southern city of Tainan and left Taiwan for the United States to study after graduating from junior high school. Her first job was as chief executive of the DPP's office in Washington, D.C. AIT responded very positively to her choice, and all the U.S. State Department connected people I know have praised her as an excellent choice. Former Taidong magistrate or county commissioner Justin Huang on Saturday declined President Tsai Ing-wen's nomination as deputy chief of the Control Yuan, one day after news of the cross-party appointment sparking criticism from across Taiwan's political spectrum. Many DPP lawmakers were opposed, and the KMT suspended his party membership rights. Now, this furor is curious because Presidents Li Denghui, Chen Shui-bian, and Ma Ying-jeou all appointed people from across the political aisle. Though he didn't get the post, which he clearly wanted, Justin Huang may have come out ahead in all of this. He was in heavy rotation in news coverage, which is good for raising his profile. The KMT, however, came out looking partisan and petty. Local media is reporting that the Taiwan People's Party plans to have a party conference on August 2nd. This may be an opportunity for the party to come to some decisions and consensus on what the party stands for. In spite of being the third largest party in the legislature, they are still something of an unformed political entity. In short, they don't have a clear identity or platform, though recently some clarity has appeared on some issues. The report also mentioned that the party has 12,000 members, by the way. While that is nothing compared to the hundreds of thousands of members the KMT and the DPP boast, it is still a fair number of people for such a new party. On yesterday's show, I went into depth on the report issued by the KMT Reform Committee. Overall, it showed self-awareness, and their proposals on cross-strait ties would move the party from deep blue to much lighter blue. The most dramatic element was killing off the 1992 consensus. Now comes the hard part for KMT Chair Johnny Chiang. He has to get the party to sign off on it, and the signs aren't encouraging. Today, there was a report in local pan-blue media outlet United Daily News. It reports that former party chairs Ma Ying-jeou and Wu Duanyi are very unhappy with the proposals, and both have pulled out of a previously scheduled meeting with Chiang to discuss the Kaohsiung mayoral by-election. Eric Chu reportedly hasn't pulled out, at least not yet. But the biggest sign of trouble is that Chiang is feeling the heat, is what he himself had to say. Described by UDN as putting out fire, they quoted him as saying, quote, "The Reform Committee's cross-strait policy is only a proposal, providing a discussion topic for those inside and outside the party and a basis for reaching a consensus. It's not a final verdict." They also quoted one of the members of the cross-strait task force on the Reform Committee who helped draft that part of the reform proposal, saying it was just a first draft. These quotes strongly suggest that their phones have been ringing off the hook with angry opponents. The reform proposal's ink is barely dry, and they're already distancing themselves from it. What they said during the presentation was correct, that actions by China and the DPP have essentially changed the 1992 consensus beyond repair. China explicitly tied it to the one country, two systems formula, that they are already undermining in Hong Kong, and the DPP's refusal to accept the consensus is widely popular. In short, the 1992 consensus is a deal breaker for the KMT in national elections. They can't win back the presidency if they support it, and it will hurt them significantly in the legislature. 2 landslide victories for the DPP in a row in national elections have woken up the reformers in the KMT to this fact. Now, I should note that in local elections, it doesn't hurt them so much. Local issues there are more important. But in national elections, Taiwan's sovereignty is by far the biggest issue. The problem for Johnny Chiang and his clearly pragmatic reformers is that the KMT old guard has a strong ideological bent. Former President and Party Chair Ma Ying-jeou and former Vice President and also former Party Chair Lian Zhan, for example, tied their careers to the consensus. This is their legacy. Many others, such as Han Guoyu, are deeply wedded to improving relations with China. But China has made it clear, no 92 consensus, no talks. Their followers, among others, will probably fight Chiang tooth and nail on this issue. Johnny Chiang knows the party can't win with the 92 consensus. But the question is, can he beat the party itself? All right, tune in the day after tomorrow. I'm preparing ICRT report tomorrow. So tune in then. I've got some stories in the backlog, which I haven't had a chance to get to, which hopefully I will get to then. All right, hit like and subscribe, and be back in a couple days.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。